I've published almost 100 videos on race hustler Rashad Richey's disregard for the truth, but this one takes the cake. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With cold, blunt analysis cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnny Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's time for the Johnny Walker Dread Show.
I love this moment that I caught him in.
One of the most tragic stories you've heard this year now has another tragedy. Do you remember Mr. Fortson was shot and killed by a deputy as the deputy decided to simply shoot upon the man opening his door?
Yeah, let's not mention that Fortson had a gun. To be fair, Rashad will mention the gun later, but you see how misinformation spreads. Mind you, I'm not good with that shooting. However, I can understand why some feel the shooting was justified, and I explored that disagreement in a previous video on this shooting. Just click on the link if you're interested.
His brother, Roger Fortson, was fatally shot as well. Here's a reminder of the original reporting. The deputy knocks on the door. He's military, he's Air Force. He's wondering, who is knocking on my door like this? He tells his lady friend, just hold on for a minute, let me check this out. He looks through the peephole. He doesn't see anybody. Why? Because the deputy decided to sidestep the peephole.
It's not that he decided to sidestep the peephole. That's a common police tactic out of fear that the inhabitants will fire through the door. I discussed the pros and cons of this tactic and how I felt that it was unwarranted in this particular instance. This is the level of analysis that Rashad is incapable of performing. He simply cannot look at an issue from a lens not coated in racism.
Put it up full mass. For the second time in nearly 3 months, the mother, Miss Fortson, is mourning the loss of a son to gun violence. Andre Fortson, 16 years of age, the younger brother of the 23-year-old Roger Fortson, an Air Force senior airman, killed by a Florida sheriff's deputy in early May, was shot to death outside the family's home in DeKalb County. This is Georgia on July 30th, according to the police.
His t-shirt says, "We all we got?" Oh boy. Is this tragic? Sure. But as you will soon see, the latest shooting was an example of black on black crime, but Rashad only cares if the shooter is white or a cop. So how can he spin this to make the kid a victim of racism or police brutality? Just wait.
The older son was devoted to helping his mother with his brother and another younger sibling. She told reporters in May, quote, "He was trying to give me everything that I ever could get, that I never could get for myself." If you remember the original reporting we did on Indisputable, we highlighted how he was a mentor to his brother, that he took care of his brother. And as soon as that cop removes this covering, this happens to his brother.
Oh, so cops, not the dude who actually shot Andre, are to blame for Andre's shooting because a cop shot his older brother who was his protector. Keep in mind that there's no good reason to believe that Andre would still be alive if it wasn't for the shooting of his older brother, Roger. Andre wasn't even living with Roger at the time. So how would Roger have protected Andre on the fateful day that Andre was shot? But to Rashad, none of this matters. Roger Fortson was shot by a cop. 2 months later, his younger brother Andre is shot by a fellow black kid. To Rashad, that makes the cops responsible for Andre's death as well. That seems a little tenuous, though. I mean, even Rashad Richey can see through that one. How can we strengthen our anti-cop message? How can we make blacks look more like victims of police violence than reality suggests? Well, that's easy. That's right. He just writes the lie into the headline. Update: cops fatally shoot younger brother of slain black airman. Let that soak in. Rashad simply claims that a cop shot Andre.
There's more. Police said younger Fortson was killed in a breezeway of the Summit Hill Apartments on Boulder Crest Road. This is the area I was actually raised in. While neighbors told a local station that he was caught in the crossfire of a shootout and likely was not the intended victim. One of the alleged shooters, identified as a 20-year-old, Quintavious Zellner, has been arrested on charges of aggravated assault and is held right now in the DeKalb County Jail, according to WSB Channel 2.
Why aren't we going full mask with that portrait of Quintavious Zellner? I wonder what went behind that decision.
He doesn't get killed overseas serving in the United States military. He gets killed as a black man opening an apartment door because a deputy went to the wrong unit.
You're trying to make it sound like Roger Fortson was doing real dangerous work for the Air Force. He simply loaded the guns on gunships. If anything, it sounds like low-level, unskilled labor, and pretty safe. I mean, I can't recall ever hearing of anyone dying while loading a Gatling cannon, but who knows? I've never loaded a Gatling cannon before. Maybe there is something truly dangerous or at least cerebral about it, but I'm not seeing it.
Mr. Mayor, thoughts?
As a veteran, I know all too well that the deadliest uniform that a black man can wear is skin, not a camouflage green. And it's not in the borders overseas. It's right here at home.
This is the mayor of that cesspool hamlet in North Carolina, Enfield. And apparently Rashad dragged him out of bed to do this podcast. Why Rashad has him on his show is hard to say. The dude never offers anything of value. But then that seems to align well with Indisputable with Rashad Richey.
We see this. I think people forget that black people are, killed by cops at rates that mimic the 100 years of hanging and lynching black folk.
Wait, black folk are killed by cops at rates that mimic the 100 years of hanging black folk? Well, let's take a look at this. In 2022, 153 officers were killed in the line of duty. This represents 21 fatalities out of every 100,000. So think of all of the 780,000 officers making up a city. Based on officer fatalities, that city would have a homicide rate roughly that of Chicago, which has a homicide rate of around 22 per 100,000. On the flip side, in 2022, there were 225 black people killed by police. That's 0.53 out of every 100,000. I don't think there is a city with any meaningful population size that has such a low crime rate. To put this homicide rate in perspective, a town made up of purely black people would, given the number of them shot by the police each year, have a homicide rate half of that of Boise, Idaho. So, police officer homicide rates, Chicago, black people homicide rates by cops, half of that of Boise, Idaho. So this 0.53 out of every 100,000 means that it would take 2 years to have one homicide amongst the black population, given the homicide rate at the hands of the police. I'm not going to play any more of this nitwit. Rashad's lies are deliberate and getting out of hand. The Young Turks need to do something about his show. They won't, because the left isn't interested in learning. They think they already know everything there is to know about everything. And so they feel that their role is to broadcast their wisdom to others, regardless of the facts. Like my video and subscribe to my channel.